Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm excited to introduce our presentation titled Inheritors According to Gender, brought to you by Continuous Learning Development. In this session, we'll explore the different heirs within a family structure, focusing on how inheritance is determined based on gender and familial relationships. We'll cover topics such as male heirs, including sons, grandfathers, and brothers, as well as the distinctions between full and half-brothers. So, let's get started and deepen our understanding of inheritance laws and principles. Let's take a closer look at some of the key relationships and roles that are essential in understanding family dynamics and social connections. First, we have the father's full brother, which is what we call a paternal uncle. This is the brother of the father, sharing the same father and mother. Then, we have the father's half-brother from the same father, meaning they share only the same father but have different mothers. Interestingly, this half-brother's son is what we refer to as a cousin. So this highlights how complex family relationships can be, especially when considering half-siblings and their children. Next, we move to the role of the husband. This is a fundamental social role, representing a partnership and often the foundation of family life and support systems. Understanding the husband's role helps us see how relationships contribute to social stability and individual well-being. Finally, we come to the emancipator. This term is powerful because it signifies someone who liberates or frees others, whether from oppression, constraints, or limitations. Recognizing the emancipator's role emphasizes the importance of leadership and the capacity to bring about positive change within communities and families. Connecting all these concepts, we see that relationships, whether familial, marital, or social, are central to the overall theme of continuous learning and development. They shape our identities, influence our growth, and empower us to foster healthier, more supportive environments. Let's take a closer look at the concept of female heirs, which is a key part of our discussion today. As we see here, there are 7 primary categories of female heirs that are typically recognized. First, we have the daughter, who is the direct female descendant. Then, there's the daughter of the son, which we often refer to as the granddaughter. These two are among the most straightforward heirs in many traditions. Next, we consider the mother and the grandmother. Both of these women hold significant roles, often with different rights depending on the specific cultural or legal context. Moving on, we have the sister, which can be either a full sister, sharing both parents, or a half-sister, sharing only one parent. The distinction can influence inheritance rights quite a bit. Then there's the wife, who also generally has a recognized share of inheritance, depending on the circumstances. Lastly, we have the female emancipator, which is a slightly more complex concept. This refers to a woman who has been legally emancipated or freed, and her rights as an heir can vary based on the specific legal framework. Connecting this to our overall theme, understanding these categories helps us appreciate how inheritance laws recognize and protect women differently across cultures and legal systems. It's essential to consider these distinctions when analyzing inheritance rights and gender roles within family structures. Now let's look at the different types of inheritors according to their shares of inheritance. First, we have those entitled to specified prescribed shares. These shares are fixed, meaning they don't change unless there's a condition called RAD, which can increase their share, or the all, which can decrease it. It's important to understand that these prescribed shares are quite rigid unless those specific circumstances occur. Next, we have agnate relatives. These are relatives connected through male lineage, but their shares of inheritance are not specifically defined. Their rights depend on the circumstances and the presence of other heirs. Then there are blood relatives. These are typically those related by blood and are generally eligible to inherit when there are no heirs entitled to the prescribed share, except in the case of the spouse. Blood relatives come into play mainly when there are no other designated heirs, especially when no prescribed share is involved and no agnate heirs are present. Connecting this to the overall theme, understanding these different categories helps us grasp how inheritance is distributed and how specific shares are assigned or adjusted based on the relationship and circumstances of the heirs. So on this final slide, we're focusing on the different types of shares and how they are represented. We see the phrase two-third, which is written as two-thirds, and this indicates a share that is 2 parts out of 3. It's a common way to express portions in a clear, visual manner. Next, we have 1/8, or which shows a smaller, more fractional part, 1 out of 8. This helps us understand the concept of dividing a whole into many smaller pieces. Then there's 1/6, written as, representing 1 part of 6 total parts. It's another example of how shares can be broken down into equal segments. Following that, we see half, or a half, which is probably the most familiar. It simply means dividing something into 2 equal parts. Then 1/3, or 1/3, again illustrating division into 3 equal parts, emphasizing how shares can vary depending on the context. And lastly, quarter, or a quarter, which is dividing something into 4 equal parts. What's important here is understanding that these 6 kinds of shares, 2/3, 1/8, 1/6, half, 1/3, and quarter, are fundamental units of division. Recognizing these helps us better grasp how resources, responsibilities, or holdings can be apportioned, which ties directly into the overall theme of resource management and equitable distribution. Remember, these fractional shares are the building blocks for understanding more complex allocation strategies. They also serve as a visual language for communicating proportions clearly, whether in finance, project planning, or any collaborative effort.